Hello, everybody. My name is Katie Creed. I'm with CT and Associates through Cetera Investors. I hope you all are doing wonderful today. Today's topic Tuesday is going to be on budgeting. Not everybody's favorite thing in the whole wide world, but I must say, I think it's one of the most important things in order to create less financial stress. You can really get empowered and you can really feel like you have some control over what your financial situation may be if you get budgeting to be a part of your routine. So I'm going to go over what my personal recommendations are to people when we're talking about budgeting. And I will say it's a little front end loaded because the most important thing when you are working on budgeting is we have to know what your past spending habits have been. And from what I hear from different people's different programs that are out there, I personally see a few gaps in what the reality of people tend to deal with. So let's first start off with the most front-end loaded portion of this whole thing is understanding what your past personal spending habits have been. And if you're in a household where it's more than one person, it's really important that this is like a group, a team effort, because one person can't just be on the budgeting train. We really need to make sure that everybody involved is in the know, because oftentimes once you are in the know, you just tend to be a little bit more mindful with your spending. So the very first thing that I recommend people do is pull every single last thing that they did for last year. Meaning I want you to go into all your credit cards, your bank statements, any loans that you might have taken out. Grab all of it, save it on your computer, print it out, pull up your old mail, whatever you need to do, but I want you to grab everything. Then we want to see all that we spent. So I personally like to do it in an Excel spreadsheet, but I know I just like Excel, but I do think that's the easiest way to do it, but pick whatever your personal preference is. So once you have all that data, right, because pulling all of that history, you can go on to your online banking, whatever you need to do, but pull all of it. I want you to go through month by month and start figuring out what those expenses were, and you can categorize them, right? So if it's going out and eating or drinking, socializing, if it's shopping, if it's for bills, if you need to segment out which bills, that's fine too. But car loans, insurance, phone, internet, I would like you to gather all of it and try to break it up into whatever categories you feel comfortable with. But that's going to be huge. So once you gather all of that and you have it in whatever format you want, then I want you to start taking a look at everything that you spent. Sometimes some of those categories are going to be a little shocking, and I don't want this, and I repeat, I know you can't see my hands, but I do not want this to be a beat yourself up session. That is not the point of this. This is just to say, okay, I didn't realize, or okay, I didn't realize maybe how much I ate out, or how much I spent shopping, or how much I spent every month on blank. Whatever it is, it's important for you to see. And if you can see that maybe there are certain stores or certain companies that get a little bit more attention from you, put that down somewhere, because I'm going to talk about it in a little, because maybe that's what you consider your fun money. That's something, that's a splurge that you need, whether it's a massage or getting something done, you know, getting your nails done, your hair, whatever it is. I just want you to kind of star that. But once we figure out what your full total year spending, what this is also going to eliminate is, one, help us create a realistic budget. Because I think when we're putting together a budget in our mind, we don't understand how much we've actually spent in the past. So when we're just putting down a number, it can be not based in reality. So that's why I want us to have some realistic expectations, because I think any kind of change, any kind of goal in this space, in budgeting and savings, it needs to be very manageable. It needs to be very doable and realistic. We don't want to, I always say to clients, like, we don't want to start out a workout routine if we haven't worked out in years and do a 2-hour leg day. We're not going to go back to the gym for 2 weeks after that, right? So we need to create what is the best first step. Doesn't going to mean it's going to be the last step, but what's the best first step for us? So when you're creating your budget, which is going to be the next step, it's so important to know what we've done in the past to help us base that on reality, what we've actually done. And what else this is going to help provide us is a real understanding of what our unexpected expenses were. And I just say that in air quotes because if we know what our last year's unexpected expenses are, we can probably guess that this year's unexpected expenses are going to be somewhat similar. It might not be completely accurate, but it's going to give us a little bit of a better understanding than if we were just kind of going about it blindly. Meaning, you have a pretty specific cost of living, right? And everybody's cost of living is going to be very different. So understanding what kind of emergencies tend to pop up in your life can be a very different cost than what somebody who lives in a different city might be, with a completely different lifestyle, with a completely different set of issues, family, whatever it may be. So just kind of understanding what our unexpected expenses were last year will help us so that we can try to save a nest egg for this upcoming year's unexpected expenses. So number 2 is create a realistic budget, kind of what I said earlier. I really want you to take it month by month though, because I want you to account for things when you know you're going to get a third paycheck, when you know you're going to get an extra lump sum of contract money, when you know your busy season might be, when you know certain expenses come out that are maybe a bit different than your normal expenses. I want us to start figuring out when money's coming in and when money's going out. Because once we start to control that a little bit, that's what gives us the stress relief of, okay, I know how I'm going to get this thing done. I know how I'm going to pay off my credit card debt. I know how I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, because right now it's weighing a lot on me emotionally. But if I know that there's a plan in place, then I know I can create a little bit of a breather because it's going to happen then, right? And it won't be always an exact science, of course, but we want to have a good estimate as to how we're going to get certain things done. So when we do have an extra paycheck, how are we going to divvy that out, right? When we do have extra contract money, how are we going to divvy that out? When we do have a busy season, how are we going to divvy that out between everything else? So it's important to know. And that's where usually a lot of people need me and need Abbey, is what do we do? What's the best thing to do with that extra money? Because I don't know. Right? That's what we relieve for clients, and that's what we really help them out with. I can't do the first step for you. That has to be a your thing. You have to pull all your data and you have to break it down. But what me and Abbey do are the next few steps. So then once we have a realistic budget in place, maybe we try to tighten up on a few things. Remember how I had spoken about what's your fun money, what's your go-to, your luxury thing, your must-haves? Well, those are the things where we need to create some kind of boundary, some kind of realistic expectation where I'm not a fan of trying to strip you from all the fun stuff in life. That's just not going to work even for my own self, right? So we just have to create some balance there. So for a lot of my clients, let's just say Starbucks is their big thing. And my suggestion is, I don't think you should be giving up Starbucks, because if that's what makes you happy and that's your treat that you get every once in a while, I get it. I totally get it. But what if we put the amount that we want to utilize on an actual gift card. And once you go through that gift card, you know you're done for the month. So you can still treat yourself when you need it, when you want it, but it's also containing how often we are spending money there and how much money we are spending there. Some people like to use the envelope system, but I just think in a realistic term of way of living your life, we're also card-based, right? Having a gift card can be a very similar experience, but we're still controlling what it is that we're spending. So that's my 2 cents there. You can always refill up how much you have on a gift card. So it can be just one of those situations that you have where it's still very swipe, swipe. Then once we figure out, okay, we have our budget, we know what we've spent in the past, we know what our fund money system's going to be. What tools am I going to use to keep track of this thing? Once again, I'm an Excel girl, so I just love Excel, but I know that's not everybody's cup of tea. There's plenty of different apps out there. There's plenty of different websites out there. There are some people that I sit down with and they go, Katie, I'm an old school individual. I like pen and paper. I have a notebook that I keep with me at all times. Do whatever you need. I'm not here to tell you what you should and shouldn't do, but you need to have some kind of tool. And if there are multiple people, this needs to be maybe a tool that multiple people can access, right? Or each person has their own notebook. And then here's the last thing. You have to have some kind of monthly check-in. So I recommend picking one day out of the month, every single month, whether it's the last Sunday of every month, whether it's the second Tuesday of every month, whether if it's the first of every month, whatever it is, I want you to pick one day and I want you to review how you did. And once again, this is not a beat yourself up over everything. This is a scenario and this is a situation where we're able to reflect. How did I do, right? Were there certain areas where maybe I need to tighten up a little bit? Were there some areas where I'm like, oh my God, I did so good and I didn't even realize? Whatever it is, you need to enjoy the positives that you did, and maybe we just need some self-reflection on some of the areas that we need a little bit more work on. But having that review every month is a great way to check back in. Great way to reevaluate. If we're not reevaluating how we're doing with any goal, how do we know if we're achieving it? How do we know what kind of progress or what got in our way to get to the progress that we want? Right? So you need to have a goal in mind whenever you're budgeting, because we need to have something to excite us. Like, are we trying to go on a trip? I know right now through Corona, that's not the easiest thing, but you could go on a staycation maybe. Or is it that you want to redo the backyard? Or is it that you just want to get rid of some debt that's stressing you out? Is it you really want to build up an emergency fund? Are we trying to save up for retirement more? Are we trying to get to your kids' college savings fund even faster than we wanted to? Whatever it is, figure out what your goal is, what's motivating you to do this. But once you start to get into a rhythm of budgeting, it becomes a lot easier. And think of it kind of like a game, like, ooh, I'm very competitive in nature, so just as a heads up. So how can I try to beat last month? Or how can I try to get to this faster? Or how can I, whatever it is, faster, better, stronger, whatever it may be. I just want you guys to get into the habits, and those habits are going to create a really successful future for you. So I know budgeting's not always the most favorite thing in the whole wide world, but let me tell you, it can be the most stress-relieving, long-term aspect of your financial history. So I hope you have fun budgeting. And if you have any questions, of course, you can reach out to Abbey and I through our website, CT and Associates. So I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.